Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to ithive.org's live tech show. So this first time we're off location, so I'm not in my office, and the reason being is that, well, a couple of things. We had a huge windstorm last night. We live amongst a lot of trees, and hence we have no power. So, but that brings up a good subject for today, about power and about being prepared and having an alternate plan in case of emergency. And I always thought about this live show and well, what would happen if I had an issue, or we couldn't do anything, or I was out traveling? What would we do? Well, what we would do is find a Tim Hortons in Canada, because they have Wi-Fi. So this is where we are. We're at the Tim Hortons in the town of Almonte, and we're using their Wi-Fi to do the live broadcast. So, like always, if you have questions that you're wondering about or so, just post them here either during the show or after. I can see that I'm pretty sure I can see those questions as I come in, and I have no problems with addressing anything that I can do. So, I wanted to talk about power because it brings up an interesting point. So, what happened in our house, we were not at home when the power went out, and I had one laptop running, and that was fine. Laptops deal with this kind of thing on their own because they have battery, and they know, if the battery's running low, I should go to sleep. But a desktop computer doesn't know that. And default setup for a desktop computer, it won't know that. So this is where I always recommend to people, and I think that this might be a more stronger sentiment moving forward about when you have a desktop computer, whether it's an Apple or a Windows computer, and they don't have an internal power source, i.e. a battery, right? Typically they don't. You should think about getting what's called a UPS, Universal Power Supply. Now, it's not good enough just to get a UPS and plug it in and plug your devices into it, right? There'll always be a connection for a USB cable from your UPS to your computer. And if you do that and set that up properly the way it should, you can tell your computer that, hey, when I'm running on battery, i.e. the power has gone out, after a certain amount of time, I should go to sleep or shut myself down. And then that way, you're going to protect that computer from any issues, because if you don't do that, so if you don't have a UPS or you don't set up your UPS properly, when the power goes out without a UPS, of course, your computer goes off, right? And it could be in the middle of doing something, making changes to the operating system, whatever, and then the power goes out. Well, you're going to get in big trouble, right? Potentially you have to rebuild your computer, the software perspective, and then you lose stuff and whatnot. The other scenario, if you do have a UPS, if it's not set up right, and of course the UPS won't last forever, the battery will eventually drain, and then your computer has no power, and the same thing happens. So that's why it's important to set these things up properly with a cable, and then once you've done that, then the computer can say, hey, yes, I'm running on battery, and I have so much time, I should shut down now. Protect your system. The other thing I should mention for those of us who are currently in a power outage situation, and I've already done this with mine, you should, probably the best thing to do would be to unplug your electronics. particularly any electronics that are not protected by a UPS. You should unplug them because when the power comes back on, sometimes that can come on in flickers and spurts. You can kind of think of it like, if you've ever done some plumbing in your house and there's no water in your pipes, right? And then suddenly you put the water in the pipes, you know how it spurts and sputters and stuff like that? Well, the same thing will happen with electricity. And electronics, particularly computers, are very sensitive to power fluctuations because a computer itself, running internally, actually runs on very, very low voltage. And so the equipment's very, very sensitive. So you can lose your computer when they turn the power back on, or actually any electronics is possible. So it's good just to unplug all those, and then when the power comes back on, plug them in, and then you're good. So that's kind of my topic on power. Now, I keep these talks to 15 minutes, but I'm doing this from my phone today, and I have no idea how long we've been talking for.
6 minutes.
Okay. Oh, only 6 minutes. So what else do we talk about? I'm kind of out of sorts today because, of course, without power, we don't have coffee. We don't have anything else. So that's, I can reflect a little bit about the week. Talk about Windows for a bit. So Microsoft has released another patch, another major update called the April update, and I have not seen any issues with it so far. It seems to be going smooth, but it's early. It was only released the last day of the month in April. And I've installed it a couple of times. I've heard some grumblings that people are having problems with it, but I don't know specifics, and I haven't seen anything offhand. So as far as I know, things are good. Microsoft will always fix little things that are a problem. What concerns me more is applying these updates, because they're not optional. Now there is a way, I think, to make them optional, but there's downsides to that, so it's better to apply them. But the fall creators update was really, really difficult, and I'm still, I think I still have 1 or 2 machines that are having problems with that update. Now, in one case, we did this yesterday. I had an older computer that wouldn't do the fall creators update. It just kept rejecting it, crashing, stalling, freezing, all that stuff, right? So there were other issues with that computer, and it was in a state that it needed to be rebuilt. So I discussed that with the client, and that's what we did. We rebuilt this machine yesterday. Now, to my horror, when I went to, so we had everything backed up, of course, right? And then, we wiped the drives, so we'd start the clean install, and it copied the files, and then it blue screened on us. And I'm like, oh my goodness, really? And that was an issue. So, I did the normal troubleshooting stuff and unplugged any USB things that we didn't need, and that got us a little further, but it still was having issues. And now, just on a hunch and a research and things that I've looked at, it seems that the Fall Creators Update has a lot of issues with certain types of video cards. So there was video available on the motherboard. So I opened up the case and took their video card out, and lo and behold, I was able to apply the update. and install the operating system, configure it, everything without the video card. Using what was on the motherboard, and that worked. So there's a workaround for those that are having trouble and they've got some skill to do that. I would say if you're having problems with applying Windows updates, remove your video card and do it, and then see how that works. So that's kind of what we learned there. Now, interestingly enough, popped in their the video card they had, and downloaded software for it from the manufacturer for Windows 10, and installed it, everything good, and went to restart, and every time you say restart, it freezes. So but that's a little problem that we have to work out. I'm not sure what the solution is at this point, but it is definitely working a lot better than it was. I told the client if we continue to have problems, maybe we just look for a different video card that is more compatible with Windows, right? It's just kind of thing. It's, I gotta say, I'm a full supporter of, buying a computer like if you were buying an appliance, and keeping that up and running for as many years as possible, if it makes sense, right? And the risk, of course, there are risks every time a computer gets a little bit older. But if you stay on top of that system and keep it clean and up to date and maintained properly, you're not going to have that many issues. And if you are going to start to have issues, you'll catch them when they're small, and then you can plan and take corrective action before that becomes an issue. So, in this case, this machine's a 9-year-old computer, which, is ancient for computers. But you know what? I've been saying this for years. A computer nowadays can last a long time, as long as you don't buy a cheap one, right? So, that's just the words of wisdom. So, to wrap up today, I'm saying power, right? Be prepared. Protect your computers with UPSs. Not your laptops, but your desktop computers. And set them up properly, right? Make sure that the UPS is talking to the computer and vice versa, so that in the event of a power failure, that computer can be shut down gracefully and without issue. So that's it. So that's all for today. Thanks for joining me live at Tim Hortons. I'll finish this post probably a little bit later on when I have more capability. But for now, it'll be up there in the raw. Provide your comments, whatever you like. All right? We'll talk to you all next Saturday from wherever. Oh, yeah. Well, road trip next Saturday, so it will be from wherever. Maybe from North Bay. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.